We're joined with Jim Ashby from the Sheppey fire station. Jim, welcome along to the show.
Hi Dan, hope everybody had a nice bonfire night. I was here a month or two back just to give some firework advice, so we're back here this evening to give some Christmas advice.
Yeah, so that was our first question really, as we approach Christmas. What sort of advice do you have for us, Jim?
Well, just a few bits and pieces for people to bear in mind during the Christmas period. Special time celebration, and hopefully shouldn't end in tragedy because the extra hazards that are present in the home this time of year. So a few bits and pieces just to touch on. Decorations, well, everybody's probably got their decorations up at the moment, or they're thinking about it. They're pulling out the fairy lights, Christmas tree lights, which are always a problem. You plug it in and they never work. So something, just a few bits and pieces to consider. Always make sure that you've got lights that conform to British standards, and they've got a kite mark with them. If you're buying a new set this year, then make sure that again you're buying from a reputable dealer and they conform to British standard, and that the fuse is the right type as well. See the box that you've got to make sure that the maximum size of fuse that you've got with the lights is correct. So that's always important before you plug your lights in. Bulbs, we all know that bulbs blow quite readily, and always replace them if you do find that you've got a faulty bulb, just to make sure that the circuit within the string of lights is working correctly. So make sure that they're all working, and you can buy accessory packs, spare bulbs in most outlet stores, such as the particularly large supermarket in town. Well, lights themselves, try not to leave them on if you go out of the house, or when you go to bed of an evening. Make sure that you turn all your lights off within the house, and don't let bulbs touch anything that can easily burn, like paper decorations or decorations in general. Most decorations that you put on Christmas trees are safe, but just be wary of where you're placing your bulbs within the house. And when you plug your lights in, don't overload the sockets as well. We're trying to avoid people using the cube type socket extensions, where you can readily plug in 2 or 3 sockets. We're trying to get people to use the strip extensions. The cubes tend to build up a little bit of heat. We're just trying to avoid people with using the cube types. So just again a little bit of pre-planning on what you're going to be plugging in, and if you're going to need more extensions, then just think about how you're going to use that power, and try and avoid the old style cube extensions. So outside lights, I know everybody's decorating the outside of their houses as well. Seems to be a bit of a craze over the years. Maybe a little bit of competition with the neighbours who can look the best, which is a good thing. It brightens up the streets and puts everybody in the mood. But if you're going to put some lights on the outside of your house, just make sure you're using an RCD, residual current device. That keeps you safe, just in case there is a fault within your lights. Make sure you're using an RCD when you plug your lights in. That will keep you safe throughout the Christmas period. If you're using your lights outside the house as well, and of course make sure that they're suitable to be used externally. Don't get your lights confused between internal and external. Decorations in general, well, decorations made of light tissue paper or cardboard obviously burn easily, so a little bit of consideration on where you're placing them around the house if you're using anything like that. And of course don't attach them to heaters or any form of lighting within the house, and don't put them immediately above or around open fireplaces. Open fireplaces should be well guarded. Presents a particular hazard with decorations around the house, but as long as you've got your fire well guarded and you keep your decorations well away from any open fires, then you shouldn't have any problems. Candles, well, candles seem to be quite popular at Christmas for some reason, and a few safety tips on candle safety in general, because we have had problems locally with people using candles.
Right.
Make sure that you place the candle in a standing upright container. It's fixed firmly to a proper holder so that it can't fall over. Scented candles are quite popular and turn into liquids, and in order to release their fragrance, so they always burn. So always burn them in a suitable glass or metal container that can withstand the heat of the liquid, and that the liquid cannot leak from them. Always place candles on a heat resistant surface. Night lights and tea lights can melt plastic surfaces such as the tops of TVs and the side of baths. And indeed, a couple of Christmases ago we attended a serious house fire where tea lights had been placed on top of a television. These had dropped through the TV and caused a serious house fire with several people having to be rescued. So just again, something to bear in mind. Tea lights are a particular hazard, so just try and avoid using tea lights in general, to be fair. And of course, candles, keep them out of drafts, blowing curtains and heat sources that may cause a problem. Just think about where you're placing the candles within the home, and burn candles well out of reach of children and pets as well. Again, children love the fascination of fire, but make sure they're well supervised and that you place the candles in a safe area within your home. Outdoor candles shouldn't really be used indoors. They're specifically designed to burn outdoors. And don't lean across candles. Just again, think about where you're placing them within the home, and don't play with candles. For example, putting matchsticks or anything else within the hot wax. You're just increasing the fire loading within the suitable container, so a particular hazard. So a little bit of consideration with candles during the Christmas time is again something to consider. And your decorations in general, making your house look nice, but just a little bit of forethought in where you're placing your decorations within any heat sources within your home. And again, if you've got any queries about decorations, internal or external, just pop along to the fire station and we can try and give you some further literature. So that's pretty much the kind of things that we're looking for during the Christmas period. Keeping people safe. We don't want house fires during the Christmas period, let alone any other time of the year. It's a particularly busy time for us, so a little bit of consideration and forethought doesn't go amiss, and everybody will keep safe.
We are talking to Jim Ashby this evening here at the Monday Night Community Show, and they were talking all about some of the useful safety tips around the Christmas time here on the Isle of Sheppey and the rest of Swale. We're talking to Jim Ashby here at the Monday Night Community Show from the Sheppey Fire Station. We're talking all around Christmas as we rapidly approach Christmas. Jim, I know you wanted to cover Christmas trees.
Yeah, surprisingly, if you're going to keep a real tree within your home, then I've got a few fire safety precautions that you might want to listen to regarding real trees. When you're keeping a real tree in the house, a real tree can burn quite rapidly, fill a room with fire and deadly gases. So just a few little tips on how to keep your tree fire safe. Selecting a Christmas tree, well, needles on fresh trees should be green and hard to pull back from the branches, and the needles shouldn't break if the tree has been freshly cut. The trunk should be sticky to the touch. And old trees that can be identified by bouncing the tree trunk on the ground, and many needles may fall off, and the tree has been cut. The tree has been cut back too long. It's probably dried out and is a particular fire hazard within the home. So make sure your tree is nice and fresh, green, sticky to the touch, and freshly cut. Caring for your tree itself, well, a few little simple things. Don't place your tree too close to a heat source, maybe including a fireplace or a heat vent of some sort. The heat will dry the tree out, causing it to be more easily ignited by flames or a spark. And be careful not to drop or flick cigarette ashes near a tree, just something to consider. And don't put your live tree up too early, or leave it up for longer than 2 weeks. The tree should be kept in a water container of some variety, just to keep some moisture within the tree itself, and maintain that freshness of the tree, just to prevent it from drying out and becoming a fire hazard within the home. At some point you've got to get rid of the thing. Well, never put your Christmas tree branches or needles in a fireplace or wood burning stove. When the tree becomes dry, discard it promptly, and the best way to discard your tree is by taking it to a recycling centre locally, or have it taken away by the council community pickup service. Quite readily see Christmas trees dumped on the side of the road because people are too lazy, and that itself is a fire hazard within the community. So just a little bit of consideration of how you dispose of your tree once you've used it following the Christmas period. A little thing I touch on briefly is cooking during the Christmas period as well. We quite often have fires in the home following cooking incidents, and the kitchen is a particularly busy time during the Christmas period. So just think about what you're going to be cooking, and the biggest thing is not to become distracted, especially if you've got friends and family around. When you're cooking, easily people get easily distracted by simple things, even by the telephone ringing. So just a little bit of consideration of when you're in the kitchen and doing a bit of cooking, and avoid drinking as well. Drinking's a big problem with people combining the two. Even over the last week or two, we've been to 3 or 4 cases where people have put items of cooking within the oven, had a few to drink, fallen asleep, and before they know it, they've got a house full of smoke. So something to consider. Just make sure you've got your cooking arranged, and that you're not going to have a few to drink during that period, or you're not going to become distracted by anybody during that time.
Jim, I know you wanted to cover smoke alarms.
Yeah, I'd like to mention smoke alarms whenever I come up. Dan, it's a big thing that we try to cover within the Kent Fire and Rescue Service itself, and it's quite surprising how many people still don't have smoke alarms. During the Christmas period, even more important to have a smoke alarm when there's a lot more activity within the home. The fire risk within the home is increased by your decorations and bits and pieces like that. So even more important to have a working smoke alarm within the home. We give away free smoke alarms within the Kent Fire and Rescue Service, and a simple case of knocking on the door at the fire station in the high street, or by ringing a free phone number, you can obtain your free smoke alarms installed for you within your home. So simply just come and knock on the door. If you haven't got any smoke alarms, we can arrange for smoke alarms to be fitted within the home, and we'll give some free fire safety advice whilst we're with you as well. Or alternatively, you can ring a free phone number. Even the phone number's free, which is 0800 923 7000, and you can find that information on the Kent Fire and Rescue website, which is kent.fire-uk.org. Or simply come and, like I say, knock on the door if you've got any queries about fire safety in the home during the Christmas period or any period. Come and knock on the door. We're always there to give you some help and advice, and we can arrange for your smoke alarms to be installed as well. Testing your alarms, just to touch on that briefly, because I know people see their alarms on the ceiling and assume that they're going to work. Well, try and test it every Tuesday. We call it Test It Tuesday. Make sure that your alarm's up and running, so that in the hour of need it's there for you, and it's going to operate when you need it to. So make sure it's operating correctly. Maybe Christmas is a good time of year to give your smoke alarm a clean out as well. Just remove any dust, creepy crawlies, etc. that can hide within an alarm, can prevent the alarm activating correctly, or even worse, can accidentally set the alarm off, which is invariably at 2 o'clock in the morning and you haven't got a clue what's going on. So once a year, just use the Hoover attachment to clean your smoke alarm out, which gives it a little bit, just a little bit of maintenance. Just make sure that it's up and running to how it should be, and just to maintain that safety within the home.
We are talking to Jim Ashby here at the Monday Night Community Show this evening.